Howdy guys, welcome back to BRG Photography. My name is Ben, and in this video we're finally going to get around to doing the hair. In our last video, part 2, we did dodge and burn, which you can see right here. Here's the before and here's the after. And in this video we are going to address these issues with the hair. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean up all these flyaways over here. Basically the same thing, clean this up. We might even get rid of some of this hair just to kind of make it a little smoother. We're also going to fill this bit in with hair so we don't have the shoulders showing. And then we're also going to deal with some of these baby hairs you often see like right at the hairline on the forehead. We're maybe going to fill it in or get rid of them. We're going to do something with it. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's just jump right in. Alright guys, so now we're finally going to get around to doing this hair. So we have a lot of things to cover, so I'm going to go pretty quick, so pay attention. Let's get started. So the first thing that I want to do is get rid of these flyaways that are along the edge. And I want to kind of smooth out the hair where it's just kind of a nice like straight line here and almost a straight line here. So I could come in with the in-painting brush and kind of try to erase each individual hair. But I think that's going to take too long and it'll be quite difficult when we've got these bunches of hair down here. So what we're going to do is do a big clone stamp. Because this is a simple gray background, it should be pretty easy just to sample from the background and paint over. So I'm creating a new layer. I'm going to pick my clone stamp tool, set to current layer and below. And with a pretty big brush and maybe a kind of slower flow, we'll say 30%, hardness 0. And I'm going to just kind of sample from a rough area like this and just start painting. And you notice that I'm actually going way well inside the hair, but that is okay because we will mask it back in. The parts that we want to keep, we'll use our layer mask and we will just paint those areas back in. So I do actually purposely go a little further in than I need to because that's going to give me a little bit more freedom deciding which hairs I want to keep, which ones I want to get rid of. So just like that, you can see that this is kind of getting rid of it. Now you do have to be careful because this is not a completely flat gray background. You can see it's a bit darker here in the bottom. There's a natural vignette. Some parts are a little darker, a little lighter. So you might have to play around a little bit just to make sure you're sampling from the correct area. But that's what we're going to do for the whole hair. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and speed it up and we'll get to the next part. All right, stay tuned. Okay, so as you can see, I took out all the flyaways, but it looks a bit funky now because I went too far, but that's all right. We are going to create a mask for this layer. We are going to select this mask and using a paintbrush, we'll do full flow, 0% hardness, and we are going to switch to a black brush on our mask to paint all that back in. So this one you may have to be a little careful. But let's start down here for a little bit and then I'll speed up the rest of the process. So obviously I went too far on the shoulder, so I'm going to paint this back in. And the great thing with working with the mask as opposed to just trying to erase it is if I accidentally like go too much, then you just switch to your white brush to paint it back in and you can go back and forth, back and forth. A lot of times this does take a little bit of back and forth, trial and error, just to kind of get the right look. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch back to my black brush, and here I'm going to just start with the hair and just kind of get the shape that I want. What we'll do later is we'll actually draw in some of our own little hairs to kind of blend this effect, make it look a bit more natural. But as you can see, that already looks a lot better. Maybe we'll keep some of those hairs up here, and maybe there's this little hair here that we can keep. Oh, went too far. Switch to a white brush and we can just take it out just like that. Maybe even here too. Maybe this is a little too much. We will bring it back in. Okay, and so you can see now this actually looks a lot better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and just hang on for a second. Okay, so I have masked out that. You can see that was before the mask and that was after the mask, and this is total before and this is total after. Now it's still not perfect because it's a bit too smooth. So what we're going to do now is we are going to create a new layer. So let's actually label these because this is going to actually involve a lot of layers, so it's better to kind of keep track of what we're doing. We call this flyaways. I'm gonna close that. This one will be called strands. These are gonna be the physical or the new hair strands that we will paint in. It's like I missed a little bit over here. I can just fix that. So let me, with my white brush, to kind of get rid of that there. Okay, so on our strands layer now, what we're going to do is we're going to keep on our paintbrush, and we're going to hold down Option or Alt to sample one of these colors around here. We're going to make a paintbrush pretty small, maybe around like 4 pixels. Here's 3.5 pixels. That looks about the same length of a hair, maybe a little bit bigger. Let's just make it 4 pixels. Okay, that looks about right. Let's also lower the flow to maybe, let's try 45%. Maybe even a little more. Let's do 40. Okay, looks all right. We'll fix it later. Maybe a tad bigger, so 4.6. All right, I like that. And what we are going to do now is actually just draw in a few strands of hair to kind of help make the transition look a little more natural. Now here's a tip, is I like to use the stabilizer. This is going to basically smooth out your brush strokes so you can get nice flowing lines. Without the stabilizer, it might be kind of like, you know, you get these little like things here, or if you're trying to do like strokes, it's just not, you can get a little wobbly. Where the stabilizer, even if I purposely try to wobble it, it stays really smooth. So these are great for making little hair strands, because I can just come in and you can just kind of go slow and you can do these little cool hair strands like that. Every once in a while, maybe grab and sample from a different color and do a few more like that. It's maybe too far, and come in just like that, and we'll do a few more down here. And it's all right if you want to actually get really creative, you can kind of do things like that and make it look a bit more natural. Now these ones didn't continue all the way down, so I want to make sure I'm kind of going all the way in and out. You want to be careful. You don't want to have you know, hairs that are kind of like starting like in weird direction or from the mid-ear. You want to try to like look at the way the hairs are flowing. This area here, she has some kind of highlights in her hair, some kind of brownish color. So I'm gonna maybe grab one of these brown colors and maybe just try to do a few like this. Maybe one of these light colors. That's too far. Come in here, do a few more. And sometimes, you know, turn the stabilizer off if you just want to do like really fast, quick strokes. If that's easier for you, whatever works. We'll do something like that. And let's see here, do a few more like that. Okay, let's go on the other side and we'll do a few. I think I'll grab the stabilizer this time and just make some nice strokes that kind of come down like so. Maybe grab from that color and maybe do a few here on the edge. Now this looks a bit out of place because it's a bit too sharp compared to her actual hair, but that's all right, because what we're going to do is we're going to add a little Gaussian blur to it, and that Gaussian blur will blur the hair a little bit more and make it look more like it's actually her hair and not that we drew it in. So I'm going to do a few more small strands here. I'm going to turn off my stabilizer just to kind of get some fast strokes like that. Oops. Okay. And yeah, like again, this is something that you're just going to play with. You can do as much or as little as you like, just to kind of make it look natural. If I can, I'm having trouble, but let's just say that. Okay, maybe down here I want to try to do a few more strokes. Okay, that's too much. Maybe I'm gonna grab my stabilizer and that'll just make my strokes a bit smoother. All right. And I'll just come down here and erase this. I'm not gonna bother making a mask for this area. I'm just gonna come in with my eraser and just erase these here. Okay. All right, so I mean, that looks a lot better from far away, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to go up to Filters, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and maybe we can just blur it to, so you can see this is no blur, and this is a blur of like too much, and maybe around like 2 pixels might be okay. Yeah, let's try that. We'll do 2 pixel blur, and you can see that just that little blur kind of made it look a little more natural. It doesn't look as fake like we painted these hairs in. So that looks pretty good. All right, we're gonna say that's done for now, just because I don't want to spend an hour on this video. So the next part that we need to work on is this shoulder area here. There's nothing wrong with the shoulder, but I would just rather have the hair come all the way over the shoulder and not having this little bit peek out. So I think what we're going to do is just clone stamp a lot of these other hairs and to have them kind of cover them up. So let's go ahead and make a brand new layer, and let's just go ahead and label this one right off the bat. We're going to call this shoulder fix, and we are going to grab our clone stamp brush and maybe just sample from start here as a kind of starting spot. Let's bring our flow up a little bit, 30% or something. And you can also use, let's see if you can see this, you can use your arrow keys left and right to rotate your brush. So I'm gonna kind of rotate it a little bit to kind of match the direction that the hair is coming down here. So maybe something like that. Up here it says rotated 20%. Let's drop my flow back down. And maybe like this little area here will be our start. And I'm just gonna doing some hairs like that. I've noticed from doing this multiple times is I feel like the less you do, the better off you are. If you start doing it a lot and you start going over and over and over and over and over and over again, you start to get blurry, it starts to become really messy, it just starts to look a bit weird, and you end up having to redo it. So I just did that. We still have some color issues here, but what I'm going to try to do now is sample from the sampled area, and maybe using a smaller brush, just try to like blend it in a little bit better with that top part. And same thing, I can maybe grab from here and just try to do a small brush. So these little small brushes kind of simulating, and I can actually maybe lower the hardness. And these small brush strokes are kind of simulating individual hair strands. Even though I'm not painting, I am kind of clone stamping, but it kind of gives the impression of individual little strands of hair. And that's to kind of help blend it in like that. So let's see, that's the before and that's the after. Now it's nowhere near perfect. This color is a bit maybe too for me. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually clone stamp some more this area. And then I think I'm going to maybe use a dodge and burn to kind of darken it all down so it doesn't look, so it looks a little nicer. I like the way it's just jet black back here. Maybe I'll have it kind of move into a jet black over here. But let me just go ahead and let's bring our hardness back up, and we'll do our low flow where rotate our brush a little bit for this area. Make the brush a bit smaller. Let's do it even lower flow. And just kind of paint in a bit here and make the brush a little bit smaller every once in a while to kind of simulate individual strands of hair. And we'll say something kind of like this. And I'm going over this brown spot for highlights just because I find the highlights a little bit actually distracting. So I'm actually gonna take them out. So sorry. I know they look cool, but I think for this portrait, I think in this kind of look, this kind of hair shampoo advertisement vibe that I kind of like, and I think it would look better if it's all just like black. All right, so it's not perfect right now. Let's see if I can just fix my rotation and just see if I can sharpen this up a little bit here. Something like that. Okay. And maybe a little bit down here. Let's rotate. Let's rotate it so it kind of falls like something like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. And maybe, yeah, actually this time I'll actually do a bigger brush with a low hardness, and we'll just kind of do something like that. But see, that's what I don't like about the low hardness, is it kind of didn't blend it very well. And maybe just blend it here and grab here. I think we're gonna be okay. All right, we'll buy this for now. Do a few more strands, fill in those dark areas. Okay. And maybe just to kind of even it out. Alrighty. So now that looks okay, but I'm not totally happy with it. Let's go ahead and make a curves, and we're going to darken this down quite a bit, and then we are going to invert that, and this is going to be hair darken. And then with a white paintbrush, we're going to do 0% hardness, and we'll do a flow of like 10 or 12 or something. Let's see how this goes. Switch to a paintbrush. Make sure we're on the right tool. Paintbrush. Let's lower our flow again. Let's this time go to 4%. And with our paintbrush selected and white, and we're painting on our darkened hair in layer, we're just going to paint to darken this. And actually this area here I think needs to be darkened a bit. Just everything needs to be darkened. Now sometimes you'll notice that when you use a darken curves, that it will affect the saturation a little bit. You can fix that by going and changing your blend mode to luminosity, where here I think it actually keeps the blue a little bit. So I actually kind of prefer it being a bit almost desaturated, saturated here. Okay, I think that looks a bit better. And even now, like I can see that this normal part of the hair I wasn't really a big fan of. So I'm going to darken the whole thing, and maybe just darken up this part where the shoulder is, and we'll do something like that. Okay, alrighty. Not perfect, but I think it's at a point where if you didn't tell anybody that you had redone all this hair, or you didn't show anybody that you had fixed up all this hair, I don't know if they would notice, like, to be honest. I think if we're looking at it, especially on social media like that, I mean, when you look at it like that, that looks totally normal, totally normal. Maybe I would fix this part here to make it all flowing so it doesn't look like there's a wave right here. But I'm gonna say done, because we got to do this part next. So actually, before I do that, I do see these extra little hairs running around here. I'm gonna go ahead and fix that really quick. So just hang on for a second, and then I'm gonna fix it, and we'll be back in a second. Okay, as you can see, if you are paying attention or you watch the whole thing, it looks like I didn't actually come down far enough here. I used a lot of the same techniques that we did for our other hair, just to fix these shoulders, a little bit of drawing in some individual brush strokes to get some individual hairs. Let me just finish this. I didn't come down here far enough. That was zoomed in too much. and yeah, something like that. And then maybe then I used a dodge and burn just to kind of fix the color of that shoulder. And then now that I look at it, I might actually come and create another curves and do a dark one, invert that, and using a painting with a white paintbrush with a 2% flow. I'm actually coming in and just kind of darken this area to kind of give more the impression that it's being shadowed by the hair, and maybe even come in here and just darken the edge around this area. That way it looks kind of, I don't know, maybe a little more real, something like that. There's but after. So you can see these curves, man, I'm a huge fan of them. You can do a lot of really cool stuff with it. Okay. I'm gonna switch that to luminosity because it's affecting the color a bit too much. All right, so you can see right here, that was just before and that was the after. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So we've pretty much done this whole bit. So what I want to do on this forehead part is just, I want to just use our good old clone stamp tool and just basically clone out all these little baby hairs, and then I think I might come down and extend the hairline down just a little bit. So what I want to do is create a brand new layer, and using our clone stamp tool, we'll do a 25% flow, 100% hardness, and I'm just gonna come in here and start clone stamping here. I could come in and be a lot more careful with in painting brush and try to do strand by strand, but up here it's going to be too difficult. So I'm just going to come in here with some pretty big strokes and just come and do this. So let me go ahead and do that really quick, and then I will see you in a bit. Okay, so there we have done the forehead. Now it's not perfect yet. There's two things I want to fix. I want to darken it a bit, and then I want to try to replace some of the texture. The texture actually looks okay, but we have some repeating patterns, and we could just come back and, you know, fix these individually. But first, let's go ahead and darken it. So let's create a curves adjustment layer, and let's lower the darkness a little bit. Just like we're doing our dodge and burn, we're going to be burning this. So let me invert that layer, and with a paintbrush, set to white, 2% flow, 0% hardness. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see better. And with my paintbrush selected, I am just going to come in here and burn around here just to, oops, that was a bit too much there. Just to kind of get the forehead, or the part that we just painted in, looking a little closer to the surrounding area. Okay, and even down here I did some stuff down here, so let me just dodge and maybe just get this part kind of dark, and maybe just get a little dark around here. I can also come in here and dodge the part, just to kind of make it a little bit darker, so it's just doesn't stand out as much. Okay, and yeah, maybe something like that. That's the before. That is the after. I can still see a few parts that maybe I need to come back, so I'm going to switch to my black brush. Just go over this part because maybe I went a bit too far here. Let's see, like that. Maybe it looks okay, I think. All right, and I can see that there is a little bit of saturation shift when I did that. You can reduce that by switching your blend mode over to luminosity, and that will kind of reduce the it's subtle, but this is normal, and this is luminosity and normal. It's a little more saturated and luminosity, so I'm gonna keep that there, and then I think that looks pretty good, so I'm not gonna touch that. And I think that looks all right. Okay, so next what I want to do is just replace some of the texture. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer, and I'm going to get my clone stamp tool, and we're going to do 100% everything, and we're going to go pretty big here. And I'm going to just grab some of this forehead texture here, and I'm going to move it up here. I'm going to rotate a little bit, and I'm just going to paint in here. And maybe I'm going to grab some more from over here. Maybe make the brush a little bit smaller and just kind of paint in some of this. Erase that there. All right. Yeah, let's do that. Now that obviously looks totally weird, but I'm going to show you how we can just basically copy that texture onto here. I'm going to, with my layer selected, we're going to go up to Filters, Sharpen, and High Pass. And using our high pass filter, we're going to adjust this to get to the point where the skin tone, the skin texture that we want is just coming in. We don't want to do it too much, just where it starts to come in. So it may be about something like that. Let's say 5.9 or something, 5.9. You're going to hit apply, and now you're going to have this gray patch of weirdness. But you come down to your blend options, blend modes, and you switch it to linear light. And just like that, bam, we have added some texture. Now you notice you'll get these weird kind of haloing effects. So I just come in with the eraser tool and a soft hardness, and just come in here and just erase around the edges. Maybe this seam is a little funny. And we just come in and erase the edges a little bit, like so. And there we go. And if that's a bit too harsh, we can always lower the opacity just to bring a little bit of texture back into the forehead. So yeah, just like that. Excellent. So far this is what we've done. This is the before and this is the after. Now this is not our final thing. There's still a few tweaks I want to do here. We need to fix the hairline because this looks totally unnatural. So what I want to do is I want to basically take this part of the hair and have it actually kind of come here and maybe just come down this way. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my clone stamp tool, grab onto that, and we're at 50% flow. And let's just, maybe I'm going to rotate just a little bit, maybe 10 degrees. And then just start painting. Maybe make the brush a little bigger. Kind of adjusting the brush size as I go. And actually, you know what? I did that backwards. Let me actually do that same thing, but this time kind of just go to the lower part and then start moving up. That'll blend in a little better. Oops, I think I messed my rotation up. There we go. Okay. And maybe just kind of paint a little bit. Maybe lower the flow down so I can kind of blend this in a little bit better. Press the wrong key on my keyboard there. And maybe make the brush smaller. Maybe even lower the flow a little more. And just kind of try to blend these in so these look a little more natural. And even come up here and resample from a new area. Make my brush a little bigger. And do something like that. Okay. Sample. Oops, that was a bit too much there. I kind of like that. Maybe just sample from here. Do like this. Sample from here. Okay, and now we have our mask. Not yet, we're gonna make a mask. And then we can just paint with our black or white to bring back or reveal. So let me just go ahead and bring that all the way up. And by painting with a black, maybe actually low flow, and kind of just erase some of these extra hair. I can even go really low, make a small hair-like size brush, and using the mask to kind of you know, give the impression of these like hairs here. All right, let's go back to this, and maybe we can actually use a paintbrush and we can actually paint in a few more hairs. Let's do a flow of about 20, and we'll sample one of these darker like black colors, and maybe it's higher flow. And yeah, we can draw in a few more hairs at the part. This is too small of a brush. And now let's lower the flow. And maybe lower the flow some more so we can kind of simulate some of these hairs coming here. That's nope. And it's just gonna be a lot of little adjustments, trying to make these hairs look kind of real. Now obviously we have a mask right here, that's why it's I should turn off that mask for now. And maybe I don't need the mask, maybe I just come in and just draw in a few baby hairs like that, my own baby hairs that I control, and get it looking like that. Okay, let's look out and see how that looks. That looks all right to me. It looks okay. There's still like a nice kind of seam here, but I think I can come in. Maybe we'll do a few more little baby hairs here like that. I think I can come in with my dodge and burn again, and just make it look a little more natural. Let me just come over here and see if I can see if we can just get this part a little more, a little thicker. Yeah, something like that. Okay. All right, so let's see. This was our dodge. So let's actually see if we can do that. Let's move this up actually. It shouldn't make a difference where we're at right now. Oops, no, that was the wrong. I want to move this dodge layer up. And yeah, I did darken it a little bit, so let's not do that. And let's just maybe make one more dodge layer. Probably having too many layers going on right now. Curves, and we're gonna darken a bit more, and then invert paintbrush and paint with white, low flow, 2% brush, and maybe just kind of darken up this area over here, just to kind of like maybe blend the effect in a little better. Okay. Actually, I think it looks pretty good. I think I need to do a few more little baby hairs. I want to put a few more little baby hairs here, and I think we're going to be done. So give me 1 second. I'm going to play with this for a bit, and then we will come back and finish it up. All right, so I think that looks pretty good. Let me go ahead and show you what we have done. This was before, actually do the whole thing. Here we go. So that was before, and that is after. We just cleaned it up, before and after. And now when I look at the after, I can see one other part that needs to be dodged just to be a little darker. And I think it's just generally the whole forehead area here needs to just be a little bit darker. Yeah, I think that looks better. My fingers keep going on the wrong spot on my keyboard. Okay. Alrighty, I'm gonna say done because I have worked on this way too long, and this is probably like a way too long video, and it needs to be not that long. Okay. So I think I am done here. Let me just get rid of some. This is a little too dark right here. Just this part. Okay. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and take a look one more time, before and after. So this is that part, and let's get the whole thing, the entire hair bit, which I think is from here all the way up to here, all the way down to here. So this is our before, and this is our after, and we really cleaned up the hair really nice. It looks a lot nicer, cleaner than it did before. So that's gonna be all for this video. It's probably way too long already, and we will see you in the next video when we will go over the makeup, lipstick, eyelashes, and our final contouring and toning. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it wasn't too long. Hope you stuck with me to the end, and leave a comment, subscribe, whatever, all that good stuff, and I will see you next time. Later, guys.